All right, welcome to Agent Prep with Lillie Hendy. Remember to tap that subscribe button and click the little bell so you get notified every time I post a new video, and go ahead and like this video. All right, so we left off as I wrote down on the entrance of this, on the notes, okay? We're gonna start out with executive contract as the vocabulary, and then exam 2 on national Q&A, and on state, that's, yes, for national, and for state Q&A exam number 3, starting out with the first question. So this is the source that I use, and as I've mentioned, it's an old source, and I did buy 2 new ones. However, these exams are awesome. So once we go through all these 4 exams, then we will start the other sources. And it's a book. And this is the table of contents. It's a book of 287 questions. It's free online, and it's also free on our group. So we've got a few people on board already. If you're here, type and say that you're here so that I know that you're here. Otherwise, I don't know who is on here until you write a comment. So welcome everybody who's on here. So we continue on with vocabulary, starting out with executed contract. What did I put on the comments? Yep, executed contract. Page 164 if you're following with the book. Okay. If the music on the background is too loud, let me know. It helps to calm. And I use it when I'm working and studying, and I forgot to turn it on earlier today because I went out. Okay, executed contract. A contract in which all obligations have been fully performed. Another question. Can you guys hear me? Hi, Tanisha. Hi, Veronica. Can you guys hear me clearly? Because I don't have my my Bluetooth speaker. So I'm going to turn it on, but you might be able to hear me loudly. This is a new computer. And, okay. Make sure the Bluetooth connected. Okay, it is connected. So an executed contract is a contract in which all obligations have been fully performed. So the contract between a buyer and the seller, the realtor, the last realtor that gets the contract with all signatures and submits it to the title company or to just an escrow officer, which could be an attorney, has to put the executed date. Well, that's the executed contract on the paperwork that is submitted. Once everything on that contract is performed, then it's called an executed contract, meaning it has sold. Express contract, an oral or written contract in which the terms are expressed in words. So you can do it orally or written. And it could stand in court, however, it's best to have it in writing. Extension agreement, because now we use emails and we use text, a lot of that. A lot of people prefer that because we can quickly see a text versus listening to a voicemail. Extension agreement, an agreement between mortgagor and mortgagee. So who can tell me who's the mortgagor? Thank you, Carmen. So you guys can hear clearly. Who is the mortgagor and who is the mortgagee? Remember the OR and the EE, the receiver and the giver. So an agreement between mortgagor and mortgagee to extend the maturity date of the mortgage after it is due. So who is who? I'll give you a second to, or more than a second, because a second goes really quick. I tease people when they say, I'll be there in a second. Hey, your second's up. Okay, anyone gonna tell me who's the mortgagor and who's the mortgagee? Borrower, very good, Tanisha. Borrower is the mortgagor, and so the lender, the bank, is the mortgagee. External obsolescence. A loss in value of a property due to factors outside the property, such as a change in surrounding land use. So if a commercial property came into effect next to a residential, it can depreciate the value of your property, and there's nothing that a person can do. It's obsolete. We can't remodel it. We can't add to it. Nothing that we do is going to change the external obsolescence as to the property around it. If there's an expressway that got it installed, if there's an airport, nothing we can do about that. Fair housing law. A term used to refer to federal and state laws prohibiting discrimination in the sale or rental of residential property. A lot of questions come up with this, okay, having to do with tenants or owners. And they protect the consumer, never the lender, okay, and not commercial people. It's for consumers purchasing 1 to 4 residents, fair housing law, or renting, any type of rental for residential. Fair market value. The highest price that a buyer, willing but not compelled to buy, would pay, and the lowest a seller, willing and but not compelled to sell, would accept. So when the buyer and the seller come to an agreement, that becomes the current market value. It's whatever they agree on, even though the appraised price might be lower and the comparables might be lower. If they both agree on a higher price, that becomes the current market value. It's their agreement, especially if it ends up selling or being bought. Federal Housing Administration, FHA, an agency within the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. Okay, those are the acronyms, so remember that. It's Housing and Urban Development. It's what U.S. Department of Housing stands for, as HUD. That ensures mortgage loans by FHA-approved lenders to make loans available to buyers with limited cash. Okay, so the Housing and Urban Development Agency, okay, ensures mortgage loans provided by FHA-approved lenders. So Federal Housing Administration, within the Department of Housing, Urban and Development, they provide insurance to those lenders that they will get their money if for some reason the buyer defaults. So in 96.5% loans, when there's 3.5% down, those are FHA loans, if they're government loan, and those are insured. So the borrower is going to pay mortgage MIP, mortgage insurance premium, and that's for the life of the loan. If it is a conventional property and they have to pay property insurance or mortgage insurance, it's called private mortgage insurance, PMI. That's the difference between the two, MIP and PMI. One is private, one is federally insured. Federal National Mortgage Association, Fannie Mae, a privately owned corporation that buys existing government-backed and conventional mortgages. So it's a Federal National Mortgage Association, okay? And so when they buy those government-backed or conventional mortgages, the lenders have money to loan again. Federal Reserve System. the central banking system of the United States, which controls the monetary policy and therefore the money supply, interest rates, and availability of credit. Federal Reserve. So it controls monetary policy, money supply, interest rates, and availability of credit. Fee simple, the most complete form of ownership of real estate. Fee simple estate, this has all the bundle of rights. It's another definition if you're looking in the Champion Review book. It'll say, you know, fee simple estate, or all the bundle of rights. So a fee simple estate is they have all the rights to that property, right? Enjoyment, ownership, use, to encumber it. So they don't have, encumber it means they can get loans on it. They can rent it, they can, you know, give it to somebody else, convey it. So they have all the rights of ownership on that property. FHA insured loan, a loan insured by the Federal Housing Administration. Okay, going back here to FHA. And that's what that FHA insured loan, okay, the borrower has to pay the mortgage insurance premium, and that can be $100 to $150 or more per month added to the principal and interest. Fiduciary relationship, a legal relationship with an obligation of trust as that of an agent and principal. So we owe the principal our fiduciary rights. Okay, and that principal also owes us some, you know, rights to do business just with us and not go listed with anybody else, and to follow through with the agency agreement that we have with them. So they've got to perform, we have to perform. So it is a legal relationship of an obligation of trust. Finder's fee, a fee or commission paid to a mortgage broker for finding a mortgage loan for a prospective borrower. There are finder's fees, like we can pay somebody, or we can give somebody a gift card, a finder's fee of $50, $25 for looking for properties for us, especially if you're also an investor in addition to being a realtor. And so you can pay them that finder's fee. That's not like the major kickbacks that they're talking about, that lender is going to offer certain things so that they can get a kickback, and that realtor or someone else will get some type of money for doing business. That's illegal. First mortgage, a mortgage that has priority to be satisfied over all other mortgages. So that's the primary mortgage. You can have, there were times where you could have two mortgages, an 80-20 loan. The first mortgage is 80%, the second one is 20%. And then, so the borrower is actually getting 100% money to buy the home. However, since the first one is 80%, they won't have to pay any private mortgage insurance, because the first one would have a 20% equity. If for some reason that property were to get foreclosed, the second mortgage loses out, okay? Because they're in second place. Fixed rate loan, a loan with an interest rate that does not change during the entire term of the loan. So a 30-year fix, 15-year fix, those are the types of loans that we recommend to our clients, so that they don't get into any trouble as they did back in the late 2000s, that there were a lot of, what did they call them, prime loans. Fixture, an article of personal property, and today what, the interest rates are what, like between 2 to 3%. So it's an excellent time to buy when a person has excellent credit. And even if they don't have excellent credit, some of the lenders may require a larger down, like 10% down, if the borrower has a credit of 500. And so they actually find a private type lender loan, and they have to put a larger percentage down, and the interest rate that they're charged goes up a little bit. But in this market where it's 2 to 3%, they might end up paying 5%. That's still great compared to a few years ago, okay, that it was 5%, they'd end up paying 7 or 9%. It's amazing some of the interest rates in history that people paid up to 18% for a loan. Fixture, an article of personal property that has been permanently attached to the real estate so as to become an integral part of the real estate. So that fixture, what goes with the land, goes with the property. That no longer, if it's permanently attached, it's no longer personal property. It's part of the real estate and it goes with it. Foreclosure, the legal process by which a borrower in default of a mortgage is deprived of interest in the mortgage property. Usually this involves a forced sale of the property at public auction where the proceeds of the sale are applied to the mortgage debt. So in the state of Texas, okay, we have a gosh, all of a sudden I forgot, where we don't have to go to the court in order to do a foreclosure. Okay, so the borrower goes through a free foreclosure process, and gosh, I forgot what the heck it's called. Hold on. Foreclosure in Texas. When you don't use it, it's a non-judicial foreclosure. When you have to go to the court for mortgages on the central states to the east, then they do a judicial foreclosure. Those take longer. The judge has to approve it. In Texas, a foreclosure can start, okay, within 20 days of being late. The lender, the bank can start proceedings by sending out notices. And so that is a non-judicial foreclosure. That is described and explained in the deed of trust, right? In the state of Texas, we have deed of trust. So there are 3 persons to a deed of trust, which is equivalent to a mortgage. The lender is the beneficiary. The trustee could be an attorney, an accountant, whoever the lender is hiring, usually an attorney. And then the borrower, okay, is the trustor. So trustor, trustee, and beneficiary. Know those. Forfeiture, the loss of money, property, rights, or privileges due to a breach of legal obligation. So if somebody didn't perform and they didn't follow, they breached the contract, then they're forfeiting their money, like their earnest money. If somebody backs out of a contract after the option period and after all final approvals, and there aren't any contingencies, any items in the loan, in the contract or the third-party addendum that could protect them from getting their money, they're going to lose their money and the right to purchase that property. Franchise. In real estate, an organization that lends a standardized trade name, operating procedures, referral services, and supplies to member brokerages. Okay, like Keller Williams is a franchise. Okay, McDonald's a franchise, Burger King, Jack in the Box, all those types of businesses are franchises. But in real estate, there are also companies that are franchises. So with Keller Williams, when I was there, I would pay a 6% franchise fee above the 70-30 split. I'm no longer there. However, that's what the franchise fee, and sometimes they would use the franchise fee. So all offices have to practice similarly and follow the same information, just like coffee places and restaurants that are a franchise. and use the same logo, the name, you know, everything the same. How each office runs it, okay, they are an independent office, is according to them. However, they have to follow certain organization requirements and procedures because it is the name. Like if you go to a McDonald's anywhere in the world, you're going to get a similar burger, okay? Fraud, a deliberate misstatement of material fact or an act of omission made with deliberate intent to deceive, active fraud, okay? A gross disregard for the truth, constructive fraud. So if a realtor withholds information that they know, they're intentionally withholding that, that's fraudulent. Okay, we're gonna get reprimanded by Texas Real Estate Commission or whatever state you might be in. Freehold estate, an estate of ownership in real property. So the fee simple is also a freehold estate, okay? It's an estate of ownership in real property. And they have, so fee simple makes it that they have all the bundle of rights. Okay, front foot. A measurement of property taken by measuring the frontage of the property along the street line. So if you've got a property that butts the road, the front footage, okay, where your property sits, that's called the front foot. So that is the front of the property, it's right next to the road, and so it's a linear measurement. And so it's a linear measurement. It could, you know, be 50 feet wide, 75 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet. As you get out into the country, you're going to have more frontage on the property. So all these commercial properties that are on the expressway, highways, those have frontage. And so investors want to know, and even residential homeowners want to know, well, what's the feet in the front? How many feet of frontage do we have? So front foot, it's 1 foot at a time in a straight line. Functional obsolescence. So here's another word, obsolescence, right? There's 3 types. Economic, which was the other one, or environmental, economic, environmental obsolescence, functional, and the third one is property obsolescence. Trying to remember what the third one is, but you can make you can change, okay, adapt the property. And here, functional, it means the property is functional but has a reduced loss of value due to causes within the property, such as a faulty design, outdated structural style, or inadequacy to function properly. So there's been new homes that have been built in the area, and this one is outdated. So it may need to have an addition of another room, a bathroom, to bring it up to compete with the current new homes. Okay, functional. Gee, today I'm obsolescence. Oh, the other one is physical. I'm sorry, I didn't even have to. So there are environment, which is external, functional, and physical. Those are the 3 different types of obsolescence. Physical and functional can be adjusted, can be repaired, can be taken care of. External, environmental, no. You're stuck with that. That's because commercial property came next to you, a railroad. I don't think they're building any new railroads. However, when that was happening, or now there's a waste center next to your area. As cities grow, as communities grow, or they get annexed, those things are experienced. So between residential and commercial, there has to be a buffer. But there's nothing now that can be done to eliminate that environmental or external obsolescence. Future interest, ownership interest in property that cannot be enjoyed until the occurrence of some event, sometimes referred to as a household or equitable interest. So the person will have final interest maybe when they finally pay off the loan, or there's a quitclaim deed that conveys it. So right now they have a certain type of interest on it, but it may not be full interest. It's equitable. They can use it. Okay, into the G's. General agent. When I see general, I want you all to remember like a general in the military or very broad topic. Okay, so a general agent is a broad responsibilities with an agent. An agent who is authorized to act for and obligate a principal in a specific range of matters as specified by their mutual agreement. A lot of this that happens with property management. Okay, let's say your property management of the home or multiple homes or apartment complexes, then the principal can give that property manager a broad activities, okay, broad responsibilities, to the point of sometimes even doing a POA, power of attorney. Of course, they're getting paid monthly for something like that, right? They get a percentage of the rents that are collected. So general, very broad. Okay, specific, it's specific to one thing. General lien, okay, it's a broad lien. A claim on all property, real and personal, owned by a debtor. So when there's a foreclosure or there's a bankruptcy, they're going to put a general lien, meaning they're going to put a lien on all property that that individual has, on their bank accounts. This typically, it could also be, if it's under an LLC or a corporation, then that'll be different. But here, it'll be attached to anything that that debtor owns. General warranty deed, an instrument, again, general, a very broad warranty deed, right? An instrument in which the grantor guarantees the grantee that the title being conveyed is good and free of all other claims or encumbrances. So think warranty deeds are called an instrument. And who signs the warranty deed? The grantor. Who is the seller, the owner? Who receives it? The grantee. Once it's recorded and they receive it in the mail, it has completely conveyed, right? When the grantor's agent informs the grantee and the grantee acknowledges, now it's been conveyed, right? It's accepted. It has to be communicated. It doesn't have to be recorded, but it's the best thing to do. Get it recorded, because somebody else could put a claim on it. Government-backed mortgage. A mortgage that is insured by the Federal Housing Administration or guaranteed by the Department of Veterans Affairs. So we have FHA loans and VA loans. Or the Rural Housing Service, RHS, mortgages that are not government loans are identified as conventional loans. Okay, the Rural Housing Service, okay. Mortgages that are not government loans are identified as conventional. Typically, conventional used to be 20% down. When there were so many foreclosures and people were trying to start buying in order to get the economy going, then they provided 5% conventional loans, 3% conventional loans. These individuals have to have excellent credit in order to get conventional loans. And anything that is above an 80% loan, they're going to have to pay private mortgage insurance, PMI. And that can be, $125, $150 or over per month, in addition to the principal and interest. Government National Mortgage Association, Ginnie Mae. Interesting, right? We have Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, a government-owned corporation within the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. Ginnie Mae manages and liquidates government-backed loans and assists HUD in special lending projects. So the other one that we, let's see, Fannie Mae, right? Federal National Mortgage, privately owned corporation that buys existing government-backed and conventional mortgages. Okay, so that's privately owned. And Ginnie Mae, government-owned corporation. Okay, so the other one was what? Privately owned? That's the Fannie Mae. Those are federal national. Government national, government owned. Okay, so pay attention to those words. And so they're within HUD. Ginnie Mae manages and liquidates government-backed loans and assists HUD in special lending projects, okay, for lenders. Government survey system, a method of land description in which meridians, lines of longitude, and baselines, lines of latitude, are used to divide land into townships and sections. We don't use that in the state of Texas. However, in Oregon, we did use this, the government survey system. And so there are 36, okay, townships in a section. Okay, so you could be asked a question, okay, on the federal side, but not on the state, because we don't follow that. We don't follow it that way. Graduated lease. Graduated lease. How do you end up graduating? Gradually, right? Going to 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. Finally, you graduate. A lease that calls for periodic stated changes in rent during the term of the lease. So it could start out being, you know, $500 a month, because commercial properties, a unit of 400 square feet could end up renting for $1 a square foot. So it would be $400 a square foot. Okay, that would be like a 20 by 20 foot office. So they might start out with 500 and then it could increase. And sometimes they could do it by percentage of income, okay? And that's called a percentage lease. Grant, the transfer of title to real property by deed. So they granted the title transfer, the transfer of title to real property by deed. A grant deed, the deed that includes 3 warranties: that the owner has the right to convey title to the property, 2, that there are no encumbrances other than those noted specifically in the deed, and 3, that the owner will convey any future interest that he or she may acquire in the property. Future interest could end up being maybe mineral rights or something else that was added to the property in the process of being conveyed, depending on what type of purchase it was. Grantee, one who receives title to the real property. The grantor, one who conveys title to real property. The present owner. The principal, the seller. Well, the grantee is also called a principal, but here the seller, the owner, the grantor. Gross income, the total income received from a property before deducting expenses. So when you're doing your income tax return, they look at your gross income, right? All the income that was received before anything was deducted from it. You know, insurance, you know, on your W-2, it'll show all the deductions. If you have any 401k, If you have any other amount that you're separating money to, like a little budget account, which is used for insurance payments, for other medical expenses. So there, everything that's deducted, okay, your taxes, your unemployment, okay, all that is taken out of the gross. So when all those expenses are taken out, it becomes what? The net income, which is what we actually receive in our paycheck, right? You're gonna say, hey man, I made 100,000, but I only ended up with 50,000 cash because of all the deductions. And then the tax rate, the tax bracket. If you're contributing to spousal support or child support, all that's going to be deducted, okay? So although we may have a high gross income, the net income may be really low. Gross income multiplier, a rough method of estimating the market value of an income property by multiplying its gross annual rent by a multiplier discovered by dividing the sales price by comparable properties by their annual gross rent. The sales price of comparative properties by their annual gross rent. So the gross income multiplier is looking at gross rent, right, for the year, not monthly rent, but the gross annual rent. And so it ends up providing a number. It could be, 5, 6, 7, whatever it comes out. It could be also a decimal. Discovered by dividing the sales price of a comparable property. So if we found 3 comparables that were selling for $1 million, then the value of this property would be $1 million, and it would be divided, okay, the gross rent would be divided by that value, gross rent, okay? So any properties that compare, and the appraiser would be doing that research, and they're gonna find out what kind of income these other properties received prior to expenses. And so you create the formula. So here is rent multiplier discovered by dividing the sales price of a comparable properties by their annual gross rent, gives us a number, a multiplier. Gross lease, a lease in which a tenant pays only a fixed amount for rental and the landlord pays all operating expenses and taxes. So that's the gross lease. They're paying just a flat fee, a flat amount. Okay, so I was gonna look up so that you guys could see the gross rent, the gross income multiplier formula. Gross income multiplier formula. So let me see if I can find something really quick here. Okay, here. So here's you're going to see it in a delay. I'm already seeing it, if you're going to see it a little bit after. So gross income multiplier, the current value of a property divided by its gross annual income. Okay, we are still live. I saw a little interruption on here. Okay, here it goes. Okay, so you see a little box here on the middle that says gross income multiplier equals the value of the current value of the property based on comparables divided by the gross annual income of those comparables. And that gives a number. So if we look to the right, you'll see a digit. Like I said, it could be a decimal or a solid number, a whole number. In this case, the example that they're showing is 5.5. Okay? So it's a factor, a number. All right, we are going to stop there with vocabulary and go into national questions. All right, welcome to Agent Prep with Lillie Hendy. Remember to tap that subscribe button and click the little bell so you get notified every time I post a new video, and go ahead and like this video.